Join UF Hall of Famer and 14-year NFL vet Shane Matthews every weekday as he brings you all you need to know about your Florida Gators, including news, analysis, and opinions with some of the biggest names in sports. Find us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Or watch us live at 8 a.m. on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter.
Good morning. It's a live edition of PodUp with Matthews in the morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to carry. It is a Thursday. College football cranks up tonight. A lot of high school ball as well. We'll have our college football analyst, Brent Beaird. And then we'll have second portion of today's program with Baker Sporting Goods High School Roundup with Mike Ridaught from the PrepZone.com Main Street Daily News. Give us the thoughts on after week one of high school football. Let's go to the Titan More Hotline, courtesy of Comfort Temp, and we are joined by, as I said, our college football analyst, Heisman Trophy voter. I'm sure he's taking notes after week 0. DJ Ugalele can't be on your list there, Brent.
Well, yeah, you mean as far as a Heisman race right now?
Correct.
Yes, I understand that very much. They just need to start winning some games. I think they will against Boston College, but Memphis is going to be another story. Shane, real quick, I wanted to thank the good folks at the Putnam County Gator Club. I had a chance to speak to them Tuesday night. Really enjoyed that immensely, and it was it was a good group. Mark McLeod speaks to them next week, so that they are off and running, but always glad to go to Palatka and spend some time with them.
Yep, no doubt about it. We got a bunch of Facebook Lives here regarding Des Watson, says starting over Cam Jackson. I don't believe that. My eyes will have to believe it when I see it come. And he may start the game and then be out one play. Nothing against Des. It's folks, it's a liability. And I think our coaches know that. I hope they know that. But I know Cam Jackson, I want to think he got banged up a little bit in one of the scrimmages, so that may have something to do with it. But you will see, I don't think you'll see Des a lot. Like I said, I could be wrong, but from what my eyes tell me, and I don't watch the defense a lot, however, the front seven is the most important part of this football team for us to have any success this year. I would play him sparingly.
Yes.
All right, Brent. Let's jump right into it. There's a bunch of games tonight. So I feel like tonight kind of kicks off the football season.
Agreed.
There's some good games out there, in my opinion, that I'm going to interested in watching. Any of them catch your eye?
Yeah, several of them. Now Howard and Rutgers actually start at 5 o'clock on the Big Ten Network. NC State is playing Western Carolina. Arkansas and Missouri both play tonight. The Arkansas plays Arkansas Pine Bluff. And look, people may snicker at that, but if you're Sam Pittman, you want a win. It doesn't matter who it's against. And then you've got Murray State at Missouri. Eli Drinkwith has challenge the fans to show up en masse to support this team. Maybe the most intriguing game is North Carolina at Minnesota. Mac Brown celebrated his 73rd birthday this week. And the game that I think will get the most attention of all, North Dakota State goes to Colorado in a game that I think both Shane and I believe North Dakota State has a real good chance of winning. By the way, a little note in that game, North Dakota State being a lower division school does not, or they did not normally have the helmet-to-helmet communication, but because they're playing a Division I school, they can have it. So they went out and got it. Don't know what that cost them, but both North Dakota State and Colorado will have your helmet communication going on tonight. So there's about 10 games on TV, and I think there's about 20 that are played, and you've got not as many tomorrow night, but I did want to call attention to the fact that Oklahoma has its first game in the SEC against Temple tomorrow night. And one of your more intriguing games maybe is TCU at Stanford at 9:30. So excited about the Thursday and Friday games this week.
Yeah, Brent, I wasn't even aware of that. And I talk to Kerwin once a week, and they play tonight at NC State. They're banged up, he told me. But he said they're going to take their shots for whatever that's worth.
Sure.
I meant to ask you, so I guess the FCS schools do not have the helmet to coach communication, huh? So yeah. I wonder if they had to go purchase it for this one game at NC State.
Yeah, I may very possibly.
Or he may have just said, "The heck with it, we're going to signal." You know.
Yeah, it could have been. They probably. I would think they at least would have the option, don't you?
Yeah, I would think you'd have to have kind of a fair playing field.
Yeah.
But, you know, for one game, and as you said, I don't know what the cost is on that. And if you haven't been using it a lot and you're only going to use it one game, I don't know if many FCS schools will purchase that. But that's interesting. I totally forgot about that. Brent, I know people don't like the cupcake so-called games, but they're very, very important dollar-wise for these schools that are playing at the big boys.
Yeah, we can never forget that because this makes up probably a substantial amount to the budget of these smaller schools. And this is what some of these schools are getting. Western Kentucky is getting $1.9 million from Alabama, the same amount for New Mexico at Auburn, UMass at Georgia, all of those making 1.9. Fresno State goes to Michigan, they make 1.85. Colorado State goes to Texas, they make 1.8. So, and I'm sure Kerwin could tell you this real quick. That is a real boost to the athletic budget for those schools.
There's no question about it. Frank says here on the Titan Our text line, positions listed as or on the depth chart are listed numerically, which is why Dez is listed first. Yeah, they put everybody on there and they put Brent Beaird or Shane Matthews starting at left tackle. Yeah, so I would not read into anything you see on those depth charts, people. Trust me. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
This is says, good morning, QB. All that angst about the right side of the O-line and Waits ends up at right tackle, in my opinion, our best option. Yeah, we'll see. Again, I don't know if he's going to start or not. It's Cameron Waits or it's Brent Beaird or.
Yeah.
And I think you'll see multiple right tackles probably play in this game. All right, Brent, what's the latest on this spring portal update?
Well, the D1 football committee is recommending that it be not two windows, but one, and that would be the one in the winter. They're proposing that they do away with the spring window, and what we're talking about here would be the transfer portal. Remember last spring it opened like April the 20th, and it was open for 2 weeks. So what they're asking is to they think it would simplify things a lot if they got rid of it. Now, under the proposal, the window would open the Monday after the FBS Conference Championship games and would close in early January. Now, if you keep it in the winter, you're still dealing with the fact that you've got teams involved in the playoffs, and how are they going to deal with that? So, but I think the important thing here, they're trying to simplify the schedule. They're trying to deal with this. And again, this is not done yet. It's just a proposal, and it's got to go through your appropriate committees in order for that to happen. Now, in the Ross Dellinger article, it mentions December the 9th to January the 7th. So we'll see where that goes. And they're simplifying this December schedule too, which they need to do very badly. So we'll keep folks up to date on that one.
Yeah. We got a bunch of new coaches actually in the Big Ten that, some people out there may not be aware of so many coaching changes in that league.
No doubt. Deshaun Foster is taking over for Chip Kelly, who left for a coordinated position at Ohio State. Kurt Cignetti replaces Tom Allen at Indiana. Cignetti was on the Nick Saban staff a while back. I think we all know about Sharon Moore at Michigan during replacing Jim Harbaugh. Michigan State hired Johnson Smith, who was at Oregon State, and frankly, he's a good football coach, to replace Mel Tucker. And then Jed Fish, who a lot of our listeners know about with his connection with the Florida program, arrived from Arizona after Kalen DeBoer went to Alabama. Shane, with people watching games this weekend, do you think they need a roster for the coaches as much as they do the players?
Yep, they sure do. Because I totally forgot some of these coaches had taken over jobs in the Big Ten until I just heard you say that. We got Andy's question for you on Facebook Live, brought to you by Meldon Law. And I'm sure you were going to touch on it once we got to A&M, but he wants to know, in the A&M Notre Dame game, it'll be former Dukies Elko versus his quarterback Riley Leonard. Do you think there are any advantages there?
That's interesting. Elko was asked that, and you can help us on this more than anybody. But what Elko said is, yes, I know some of his tendencies, but he also knows a lot of mine. So they're both very familiar with each other. And obviously Leonard and Elko were together for a while, but they were together for a season. So that is a very interesting question. Not sure until the game is over how much it's going to help, but that is something you don't face very often. Is quarterback leaves and goes to another school, and then he plays his previous coach. So that'll be interesting to see where that goes, Shane.
Yeah, if there's a so-called advantage, I lean towards the coach. The coach knows the limitations and what his former player struggles with, or what, he said in those quarterback meetings with Riley Leonard, and Riley Leonard goes through the game plan with their OC, and he's like, this is what I like, this is what I don't like. And so Elko has that in the back of his mind. But very good player, but I like the Aggies in that game. Yeah. Notre Dame's got to do something to prove to me they're a good football team. Before we move into the SEC, Brent, another technology item that has brought to the sidelines are the 18 smart tablets, which this is phenomenal in my opinion. If people are not aware of this has been happening in high school football for a long time with a system called Huddle. And so you have iPads, tablets, whatever, and you can watch the game as a coach or in the box as the play develops. And then when the players come off, you can rewind to that series and go through every play. You have end zone and sideline copies to see who made a mistake. Did you step with the right foot? What did the safety do on this play? And I just think it's outstanding. I used to freaking love it, Brent, in high school football.
I bet.
But this is where coaches can make some huge adjustments, because a lot of times you have to rely on, whether it's a graduate assistant taking notes in the box, or, when the O-line comes off, you say, hey, when we were in this formation, what was the front? Was it a 3-4 with, the three technique shaded, blah, 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 all this kind of stuff. And sometimes, the player may be correct, but sometimes the players don't know the terminology, or they don't really see it correctly. Mm-hmm. Now the coach can look at it and say, this is what we need to do. So I just think it's outstanding.
Well, we've seen before where you've got coaches and players, the players on the bench, the coaches walked up to him and basically hands him pictures.
Right.
It was almost like the old days where you had the Polaroid and you take the picture and the picture would develop automatically and you're going to hand it to the person. But what fascinates me about this is, Shane, is they've got that's a lot of smart tablets. They've got 18 of them. Well, if you got 18, what I wonder is, don't you got to have at least another 10 to 20 that are probably packed away somewhere in case the coach gets mad and smashes it? Or how many chargers do you have ready if the battery gets low? There's some things like that will be fascinating throughout the game.
Yeah, it's I absolutely loved it. I wish I could get one of those tablets up in the press box or in the booth to watch.
That would be great.
Yeah, on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mental Law, Greg says, TV, did you know that Kerwin's son's the OC at Pitt? Yes, we talked about that multiple times. Cade went there. Cade took the O-line coach, took the receiver coach. He took like 5 of Kerwin's best players with him.
Really?
He's a grinder, man. He's got a bright future, and Cade's fun to watch. I talked to him as well. Florida victorious joined today. Make Florida victorious. We're talking with Brent Beaird here, our college football analyst on the Titan MR hotline, courtesy of Comfort Temp. All right, Brent, let's go around the SEC.
Sure.
The Crimson Tide and Kalen DeBoer's, or as Coach Spurrier likes to call him sometimes, Jalen DeBoer. I crack up every time he calls him that.
Really?
Their opener under him, they're going to run out of the tunnel and play the Hilltoppers of Western Kentucky. They're getting $1.9 million. And Western Kentucky, Austin Reed was a good quarterback. I think he made the Patriots roster as a third quarterback. So they've always put up good numbers there. I don't know what they have coming back. I just got a feeling that Alabama's just going to lay the lumber to the Hilltoppers. I don't know why. I think it's because his opener or what have you. But your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I think the offense will be fine. I think the defense is where the question marks are, particularly in the secondary. If I remember this right, Western Kentucky's quarterback's T.J. Finley, who was at LSU and Auburn. So that will be interesting. This is the ESPN 7:00 game on Saturday night. Probably getting that time slot, which is coveted by a lot of people because it's DeBoer's first game and so forth. So Jalen Milroe is supposed to be very, very improved, really good running back room. So this will be an interesting game to watch for a variety of reasons.
Yeah, I forget. I'm looking at the notes here because when we played Alabama a few years ago in the Swamp at our tailgate spot, Bryce Young's family and Malachi Moore's family just rolled up and hung out with us for like an hour and a half. Nicest people in the world. But Malachi Moore, I feel like he's been playing there for 15 years.
Yes. Yeah, he is. He's certainly one of the senior leaders. You're right about that. He's been there for quite a while. Could have probably gone to the NFL last year, but decided NIL makes it a different day, so he decided to stay.
Yeah. All right, the Hogs, as you mentioned earlier, have Arkansas Pine Bluff. They'll get off to a good start there. It'll be interesting to watch their new young quarterback, and Bobby Petrino.
That's right.
All right, so the Auburn Tigers are going to be hosting Alabama A&M. Any thoughts on that game?
Well, I think you want to see as Peyton Thorne really improved at quarterback. Jarquez Hunter, I'm not sure how many carries he'll get, but he is one of the better running backs in the league. So Auburn's got some pretty good rush-ins, Jalen McLeod and Keldrick Falk. You watch this game for certainly if you're an Auburn fan, just to see how much improvement you got. They won't be now. They'll be tested against Cal next week more than certainly Alabama A&M. But this will be a feel-good game for them as Hugh Freeze starts year 2.
Yeah, the Gators, as we've been talking about all summer long, huge game in the Swamp. 3:30 kickoff against the Miami Hurricanes. Give us some of your nuggets from this game, Brent, and what you're looking for.
I think Florida wins the game. I think they are. And one thing that's really stuck out in my mind, and I've talked about this several places, is your comment about Cam Ward never playing in front of 92,000. And look, I've never been quarterback. You have, but that's got to affect you in some way. I mean, the guys play a lot of games, and he'll deal with it at some point. But I would think that would have something to do with how the game's going. But as far as Miami is concerned, I thought this was an interesting note. They've got a tight end, Cam McCormick. He is 26 years old. He is this is amazing. He is a ninth-year senior.
How's that possible?
He was originally from Oregon, spent 7 years at Oregon, then transferred to Miami. He was in the same signing class. His signing class, Shane, was 2016. As Michigan defensive lineman Rashawn Gary, who is beginning his 6th year in the NFL. That's hard to wrap your mind around, that, isn't it?
It really is. I mean, I don't understand how you can still be playing and be eligible that long. And I know you get to petition the NCAA, and I know they had a COVID year and all that nonsense, but that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
All right, another big game in our conference up in the, keep calling it the Georgia Dome, the Mercedes-Benz Dome,
Mm-hmm.
Georgia Clemson. Look, I think Georgia's going to win this game, Brent, but I think too many people are like sleeping on the Clemson Tigers for some reason this year.
Well, they are. Now, what is going to keep Clemson in the game is their defensive line with Peter Woods and T.J. Parker, for instance. I think Cade Klubnik will be better than he was last year. Their offensive coordinator is Garrett Riley. So, but no, I'm with you. I think Clemson can stay in the game. Here's an odd stat. If Clemson wins, and I'm with you, I don't think they will, it would be the first non-SEC program since 1980 to beat 3 SEC teams in 3 consecutive games. Clemson ended last year beating South Carolina and Kentucky, and if they beat Georgia, that'd be 3 in a row. So that would be virtually historic. But I'm with you. I don't think that happens either, but I still think Clemson's a good football team.
Yeah, no doubt about it. All right, Kentucky hosts Southern Miss. I saw a thing on Twitter. Gerald Mincy, I believe is his name. He started his career offensive lineman at Florida, transferred to Tennessee, and now he's an offensive lineman for Kentucky. Brent, he said on this Twitter feed that I saw that people are going to be shocked at Kentucky this year, how fast they go on offense. He says they go faster than Josh Heupel's offense at Tennessee. I got to see this to believe it.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah, I would agree with that. And look, Mississippi State is going to be one of these teams that's going to be going fast too. Levy was at Oklahoma, and they ran a play every 23 seconds. I'm not sure that now. Again, it's going to be really fascinating to see Brock Vandagriff, the former Georgia quarterback, and also Jamon Dumas Johnson is also on the Kentucky team. Also, so that will be interesting to see. But how and look, Kentucky's got some players. There's no doubt about that. But they were kind of break even last year, hoping for a better year this year. But I would agree the offense, I think, should be better than it was last year, at least more in sync.
Yeah, another big game in the conference out in Vegas, LSU versus USC. Boy, I think this is going to be a shootout. I don't think anybody's going to be able to stop anybody.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. This is Sunday night, 7:30 on ABC. Is this game again? Remember, and this is a big deal for LSU. LSU has not won an opening game since 2019. Would you ever believe that, Shane? For this program, Garrett Nussmeier is the quarterback, and I think he'll be fine. Frankly, USC's quarterback is Miller Moss. Some may have heard of that name. USC's running back is Jaquavius Marks, who was at Mississippi State, if that name sounds familiar. But I'm with you. I do think LSU ends up winning. I think that they'll have a little bit better defense with Harold Perkins. But you're right. This thing could be 38-35 or something like that before it's over.
Yeah. Got a bunch of questions here on Facebook Live brought to you by Mel Law about Montreal playing. Yes, he will play. He'll be fine. He'll be ready to roll. Brent, Eastern Kentucky comes into Mississippi State. I think they'll hammer Eastern Kentucky in game one for Levy, score a bunch of points, get the fans all excited. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think so. They need that. That would be important. They were so bad with Zach Arnett there last year that's going to be fascinating to kind of see how they do. But I think, yes, the offense will be significantly better.
Oklahoma, as you mentioned, hosts Temple tomorrow night. Correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't you say during the offseason Oklahoma is replacing all 5 starting offensive linemen?
Yes.
They left to go to other programs?
Yes. That is a real challenge for any team, particularly with your first year in the SEC and you're replacing all 5 offensive linemen. That's going to be a real challenge for them. They've got some really good wide receivers, as you can imagine. The defense is getting better under Brent Venables, the head coach. Jackson Arnold is a guy to watch for. He did struggle in some scrimmages, but hopefully he will have it together. So, again, a reminder, this game is not Saturday. It's tomorrow night if you want to see it.
Yep. The Rebels host the Purple Paladins of Furman. Be careful. Be careful.
Yeah, Shane is right on this. Furman is a good football team. Now, everybody wants to see what Jackson Dart's going to do and all these receivers and the defensive line with Walter Nolan from A&M. Juice Wells comes over from South Carolina. He is a wide receiver. I'm going to be curious about how Pete Golding's team does on defense in another year for him. And by the way, I heard this week that Billy Napier played at Furman and had a nice career. So you may know more about that than me. So wanted to mention that too.
Yep, he was a good quarterback for those guys. He's in their Hall of Fame, by the way. Here's a team that better look out.
Yes.
The Gamecocks of South Carolina. Brent, it would not shock me if Old Dominion doesn't win this game. People don't think Old Dominion's very good, but they are a good, solid football program. Mm-hmm. This is going to be a dogfight.
Yep, I would agree. And what I'm interested in here for South Carolina, Rocket Sanders transfers from Arkansas to South Carolina. He is their running back now. To see how this is going to go. But this is a game, and Shane's right on here, that they really can't afford to lose a game like this. They've also got a kid named Nick Harbour, who is 6'5", 235. He is a track star, so he may be a guy that they can really be able to use on the edge on the offense. And Lenore Sellers is their new quarterback, so I think he's a dual threat guy. So that's going to be interesting to see how they do. Agree, totally. Very important game for South Carolina.
Yeah, another interesting game, and with all the all-season hype and losing some of your starting tailbacks, Texas is playing a Colorado State team. It's not bad, has improved dramatically. Mm-hmm. But the Longhorns are going to win it, but I think it could be a struggle for them early. Any news coming out of Austin?
Yeah, I think now Quinn Ewers is your quarterback. If they get ahead, how much does Arch Manning play? Isaiah Bond, who caught the touchdown to beat Auburn, is now at Texas. He comes from Alabama, and he has done well. He may be their number one receiver, frankly. But the big thing for them is going to be is how do they replace Javonte Sweat and Byron Murphy on that defensive line. So, and particularly after Bo Davis left Texas and went to LSU. So there's always something intriguing in every game, basically in your opener.
Yep. Who you like in the A&M Notre Dame game?
I like A&M. A&M's defensive line is one of the best defensive lines in the nation. And my understanding is because of some injuries, Notre Dame's going to be starting at least one freshman. Oh, man. One freshman on the offensive line. So that's going to be a challenge. Connor Weigman is back. You remember him from last year. He got hurt. So he has been out. But on that A&M defensive line, Shamir Turner, and particularly pay attention to Nick Scorton, who came from Purdue. They've said he has just absolutely been unblockable, frankly. This is a huge game for Notre Dame because they've got a very easy schedule. And Shane, they really need to win a game like this because this may be the closest thing to a ranked team that they're going to play for a while. So it's an intriguing game. Game day is going to be there. They'll have about 105 to 107,000 on hand with this game. So one of the better games. So you on ABC, you've got, and this is what we do at First Coast News because we have ABC. We've got the Georgia games first. Florida and Miami is second, and A&M and Notre Dame's third. That's a pretty good triple header for ABC, isn't it, Jane?
You're dang right it is. Electronics World, your local integration and design specialist for smart home automation and entertainment. That's Electronics World. A few more minutes here with Brent Beaird, college football analyst on the Titan & More hotline, courtesy of Comfort Gym. All right, Brent, the semis, they come back home. There's going to be about 40,000 people there, maybe, because the stadium is, I think, the capacity decreased because of renovation to about 50. But this is a Monday night game. People got to go to work the next day. I mean, look, Boston College, say what you want to say about Bill O'Brien. He's coached a lot of football, but they got a quarterback that can cause some problems.
Yeah, absolutely. Thomas Castellanos, and I'm sure I'm mispronouncing that, but he is a good quarterback. Now, one thing that will help FSU, Hakeem Williams, a wide receiver, is going to be back. But the question is going to be, Shane, frankly, is can Uiagalelei get him the ball? To me, the amazing stat about the FSU game among many in that loss to Georgia Tech is you would have thought that they would have had like 5 turnovers and 15 penalties. They had 0 turnovers and 1 penalty. So that certainly kept them in the game. But still, the two things they've got to improve on, I'll say quickly, their defensive line that was considered one of the best in the nation had to combine 6 tackles and 0 tackles for loss. And they've got, and I'm curious your opinion on this, Shane, they've got to do something to get DJU comfortable. I don't know what that's going to be, and I mean, his limitations just too much.
He is what he is, Brent.
Yeah.
I say it all the time. There are a million guys like him that coaches fall in love with at the combines, and they think they can make him be a quarterback.
Yep.
Well, he couldn't work out at Clemson. He went to Oregon State and did a nice job, but I mean, they're majority there. They just turn around and hand the football off.
Right.
He just doesn't have that factor, the it factor of how to play the position.
Mm-hmm.
Does he have a great arm? Is he big and all that? Yes. But there's a million guys like that still in the NFL that general managers take in the first round, and they end up sitting on the bench, and then after 5 years, they're out of the league. Mm-hmm. It just blows my mind that people continue doing that. So I don't think he will ever be comfortable. He's going to make some throws that you're going like, whoa. And then he's going to make 5 or 6 throws that you're like, what is he doing out there? So I just think the semis better look out. That's all I'm saying. Any more nuggets before we get you out of here?
Yeah. Speaking of Georgia Tech, they played Georgia State, which they'll continue to be winning. There were a lot of great ACC games since we're on that. We mentioned North Carolina State plays Western Carolina tonight. SMU hosts Houston Christian. Stanford plays TCU. We mentioned that on Friday. Also, in Missouri plays tonight. Eli Drinkwith is going out of his way to try to get his fan base. And my goodness, they won double-digit games last year. Try to get his fan base interested in this game. Brady Cook comes back at quarterback. Luther Burden comes back at wide receiver. So great games coming up this weekend. Some not great, but it's football. We've got 5 days of it. We're excited and excited about hearing Mike Ridaught coming up in a few minutes too.
No doubt. Brent, enjoy the weekend, and we'll talk to you next week, my friend.
Good. Always, brother. Take care.
That's Brent Beaird, a college football analyst and Heisman Trophy voter. Join us on the Titan MR hotline, courtesy of Comfort Temp. Quick timeout, come back, get a little Baker Sporting Goods High School roundup. You're watching and listening to PodUp with Matthews in the morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. We'll be right back.
We want to take this moment to thank our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills.
Our premium sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, Titan MRI, Meldon Law, Peachland Dental, QC Kinetics, Campus USA Credit Union, Dave & Buster's. Gridiron sponsors, Comfort Temp, UF Bookstores, Quality Plumbing, Silverback Concrete, Ruse Ogra State Farm, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, F45. Our touchdown sponsors, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Gator Bait Media, Aikido America, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, Big Mills Cheesesteaks, McDonald's of Gainesville, 84 Lumber, Dowling Signs, Baker's Sporting Goods, MG&A Wealth, Nest and Wild.
If you're interested in promoting your business on the show, call Freddie at 352-284-3733. If you like what we're doing here, make sure to follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Pro football legend Emmitt Smith understands your joint pain.
It does not surprise me that there are a ton of people out there that's in pain.
That's why Emmitt is such a proponent of QC Kinetics, offering real lasting joint pain relief with non-surgical, all-natural biologic treatments.
Whether it's a joint pain, ankle pain, shoulder pain, neck pain, back pain, hip pain, any kind of pain, the body eventually will break down when it's under that much stress.
That stress can cloud your judgment to the point that you'll just say yes to the scalpel or yes to another prescription of pain pills. But maybe it's time for a second opinion from QC Kinetics.
The reason why I would recommend this is because the natural biologics that QC Kinetics is providing you gives your body a chance to naturally heal itself.
Restorative, regenerative solutions are here. Get lasting relief and live your life.
Call QC Kinetics, 352-400-4550. That's 352-400-4550. QC Kinetics, 352-400-4550.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Ruse Ogre State Farm Office is a team of dedicated insurance professionals ready to help life go right with the right insurance options for you and your family. Visit OgreInsurance.com. Give them a call at 352-240-1779. Back to the Titan MR hotline, courtesy of Comfort Temp. Mike Ridaught from the PrepZone.com and Main Street Daily News does a tremendous job covering high school sports. How we doing, my man?
I'm doing great, Shane. How about yourself?
Not too bad. All right, Mike, we're 1 week into the high school football season. I believe you guys called the Vanguard Buchholz game. So let's start there.
Yeah.
I talked to a couple people. Buchholz has a very good football team. My sources tell me they don't think they're quite as stout and as good as last year's team. And I was told that Vanguard's not as good as they were last year. So what did you see during this game?
I think it's, two teams that lost a lot of talent from last year, but still two teams that at the end, we're going to see both of them in the state playoffs. Buchholz, Trace Johnson is back, had a big year last year, threw for 2,800 yards. But losing Graham was big, losing Cutler was big. Miles Graham, on both sides of the ball. Quentin Cutler rushed for almost 1,200 yards last year. But they've got a running back, a sophomore, and Josiah Powell. And it's funny because I mentioned to head coach Mark Whittemore after the game. I said, Coach, if you combine Cutler and Graham, you would probably form Powell. I mean, he's a small dude, 5'9", but pretty stocky at 190. And he can get the 2, 3, 4 yards at a time. But the ability for Trace Johnson to put the ball in the hands of Justin Williams and let him do his thing. He had over 150 yards receiving. So I think they're going to be okay offensively. Kill McGriff, who was the quarterback at Newberry, has transferred in. He will be playing wide receiver for them. Also, the tight end who made a couple of big plays. Tony Sanchez transfer from Newberry as well. So I think they're going to be okay offensively. Defensively, Elijah Daniels, he's got, several Division I offers, but the leader of the defense without question is, a guy that is going to be playing for Wisconsin, Nick Clayton. So I think the challenge for Buchholz this year, Shane, is that they've got a daunting schedule. They go to Vero Beach this week, which won 9 games and was a 4S playoff team last year. They host Bradenton Manatee, right now a top 10 team in the state. They go to Richmond Hill, Georgia. They've got Nice on the road, Bartram Trail on the road, Cardinal Newman at home to end the season. Very, very tough schedule. They've been to, as you know, 3 straight state semifinals. Not as good as those teams are, but I still think a playoff team, and, with Mark Whittemore back on the sidelines for his second stint, anything's certainly possible by the time postseason rolls around.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about the receiver. Is Justin Williams, is that his name?
Yes. Yeah, he's a junior.
Yeah. Yeah. What offers does he have? Because I've been told by some of their coaches and other people that watched him play that he could be one of the better receivers to ever come out of Gainesville.
Yeah, Mark told me after the game he's got an offer from Ole Miss currently. So I would expect that to kind of go up a little bit as he gets, some more exposure. But, last year, Shane, he had 18 touchdowns, 1,000-yard receiving year. So he's a guy that is a playmaker. So, they have got to keep him healthy this year because he is definitely their main go-to guy. I think until Kill McGriff kind of develops a little bit more, and maybe with Justin, getting a lot of attention, that'll help open up the passing game a little bit for guys like Kill and the tight end Sanchez that I mentioned.
Yeah. Let's talk about the Gainesville Hurricanes. Big win. They haven't won many games here in the last few years, but Ian Scott, in year 2, they get a big win Friday night.
Huge win. Just how big was it? Well, last year, Gainesville finished 1-9. They were held to 14 points or less 8 times, and they scored 38 points in a win against Braden River out of Bradenton. Shane, this might surprise you. I wrote a story about this on Monday, but it was the first time that Gainesville, Buchholz, and Eastside had won on the same night in almost 3 years. October 29, 2021, the last time that Gainesville, Buchholz, and Eastside all won on the same night. And here's an even bigger stat for you. Now all 3 teams have a chance for their first 2-0 start in a long, long time. But it's been over 30 years since all the big 3, as I call them, Gainesville, Eastside, Buchholz, have gone 2-0. And the main reason for that, well, first of all, Columbia was Gainesville's nemesis. They won 6 in a row from 2013 to 2018. But Buchholz and Eastside have been playing at the beginning of the season, so one of those teams is going to have a loss. But I found that pretty fascinating. Gainesville is actually seeking their first 2-0 start, Shane, since 2012, and they're going to play Santa Fe and Alachua this Friday. I think that's a winnable game. Santa Fe lost to PK Young last week, but I think Gainesville's got a really good chance to go to 2-0 this week.
Yeah, Ernest Graham is now, I think, running the offense over there at Gainesville High. So he's definitely made a difference, no question about it. What can you tell us about the Eastside Rams?
Eastside lost their quarterback. Adrian Curtis has transferred to Hawthorne High School. So the big challenge there is they've got a freshman quarterback. How quickly can he develop? His name's Andrew Sutherland. They call him Cade. But he's got Dejon Honey Mustard that's come back, the leading receiver from last year. Their leading rusher, Corbin Bird, is back. But, they kind of hang their hat on defense. Last year they gave up about an average of 14 points a game defensively last year. It's really kind of hard to gauge their game last Friday because they played a Bellevue team that was winless last year. But Eastside did win that one convincingly, 41-3. Now, they go to Rickards High School in Tallahassee this week, a little bit tougher matchup. So I think the jury is still out on just how good Eastside can be, but no question that Gator Hoskins has done a great job with this program. Another 8-win season last year, back-to-back district championships, but obviously losing Curtis was a big blow for that football team.
I think one of the bigger surprises, if I saw the score correctly, was Hawthorne beating Trinity Christian out of Jacksonville. Did that surprise you at all?
Well, it was a kickoff classic, So I don't know how long the varsity played. Trinity Christian, I do know they've got a lot of new faces, but we know about that. It's a storied program there in Jacksonville. I think for Hawthorne, the thing that impressed me, they go on the road last week and they beat Anclote out of Holiday, but they put that game away early. They had a running clock in the second half. They won it easily 51-0. And I mentioned Adrian Curtis, transferred from Eastside High School. He was 13 of 15, 220 yards, 3 touchdowns in one half. So I think Hawthorne has the pieces to go for a three-peat this year. So I don't know if that's so much a slant against Trinity Christian, because we know how good they've been over the years, but I do think they might be a little bit down this year. But Hawthorne, with the addition of Curtis, makes them a championship level team because they've got a lot of key returnees on that Hawthorne team.
When you look at the smaller classification, I'm not sure where Newberry is. I heard they have a pretty good team. What about Newberry and Union County?
Yeah, actually, Newberry is going to get a good test this week, Shane, because they will play at Hawthorne. That'll be the game that we'll broadcast on Friday night. But of the playoff teams in our area, the Main Street Daily News coverage area, there were 14 teams that made the playoffs last year. Of those 14 teams, 8 were in the rural classification: Chiefland, Hawthorne, Dixie County, Williston, Union County, Fort White, Brantford, and Newberry. All of those, except for Newberry, stay in that rural classification. Newberry will move up. They're in 2A. They'll compete in District 5 this year. Hawthorne, definitely a championship contender. Chiefland got a huge win, Shane. They beat a Williston team. Coach Pruitt, back-to-back undefeated regular seasons, but Chiefland surprised them last Friday. So a big win for the Indians. Adam Gore's back for his third stint with the Indians. So right now they're a top 5 team in the rural classification. We'll see how they can continue to play this year. Union County, big win for them on the road against a bigger team, Yulee. I talked to their coach, Andrew Thomas, before the season. He told me our ones are really good. The question will be depth. But they held on for a 14-13 win last week at Yulee. Last year they had a pretty good run before losing to Madison County in the state playoffs. I think Union County will be in the mix. Fort White, a little bit of surprise there, but they lost to Taylor County. But a team that was in the playoffs last year, and they've got some key players back this year. I think they'll be in the running. But I tell you, Williston, I'm not so sure, just because of their offensive line. It sounds like they've got a pretty young offensive line, and they could be in for a disappointing season, certainly based on what they've done the past couple of years.
Yeah, Reggie says on Facebook Live, brought to you by Meldon Law. What's crazy to me is when I went to Trinity back in Jacksonville back in the early 80s, they could barely win a game. Things have changed, Reggie. They get the cream of the crop. Yeah, they do. Amy's question for you is, Mike, how will C.J. Ingram sitting out this season impact Hawthorne's chance of winning state this year? I don't think it matters.
Well, I don't think it does now that Adrian Curtis is there for him, Shane. Honestly, right now he's playing pretty well. Seems to have already fit in with that program. And the thing about it is, he's a little bit different than CJ. CJ was more of an athlete. He would use his legs at times. Adrian is definitely more of a pocket passer, but he doesn't really have to run because they've got Keenan Johnson in the backfield, a guy who rushed for over 1,000 yards last year, and a tremendous blocker too. So I honestly think with Adrian Curtis at quarterback, as long as he stays healthy, I think Hawthorne could be in the state championship game again this year.
Yeah, I think Hawthorne's, a lot of kids had wanted to go play for CI. There's no question about that. He's getting kids from everywhere. But what they do different at that level, to me, Mike, and you watch them play, and I've seen them play a little bit, is defensively. They just have better dudes on that side of the ball than the other team.
Yeah. Now they lose Dustin Atkins, the defensive coordinator. He's up in Georgia now coaching. I don't know how much of a difference that will make. Cedric Daniels has been there for a while. But they do have some really good football players on the defensive side. Leland Johnson last year finished with 74 tackles, had 15.5 tackles for a loss. Zion Johnson, it's a team that they've got some dudes on the defensive side of the ball, and defense wins championships. So I think it's hard to believe this is CI's 10th season as head coach there at Hawthorne. But Hawthorne, I think, will be in the mix when you start talking about a state championship in the rural classification.
Silverback concrete builds firm foundations for generations. You stand on it. We stand by it. A few more minutes with Mike Ridaught here from the Main Street Daily News. Before you tell us like what games you're going to broadcast in football, give us a little update in volleyball. Who are the premier teams in kind of North Central Florida this year in volleyball?
So I've seen a little bit of volleyball. I got a chance to see Newberry and Eastside. Newberry is off to a good start. They've moved up in classifications this year. Newberry's off to a 6-1 start. I think Santa Fe, for the Raiders, the key for them is going to be, Gia McGrew, who has transferred back into Florida. She has an offer from Iowa right now. Eric Marshall's daughter, Grayson, is on that team, the setter for the team. So I think Santa Fe, they've got to be mentioned, among the top teams, certainly in Alachua County. But a surprising 3-0 loss a couple of days ago to St. John Luther. So it tells you something about that team from Ocala. But PK Young, Chancey Vice was at Gainesville High School, led them to back-to-back 21 seasons. She's now over at PK Young, and she is going to co-coach with Enrique Wiseman. Gainesville's got a new coach. A former Hurricane, in fact, that was a part of a couple of state championship appearances, Jessica Carter-Mitchell. I've heard Gainesville's pretty good. I haven't seen Gainesville yet. UOLT has a new coach this year, so I think the jury's still out on them. So, yeah, looking forward to getting out and seeing some volleyball. I know next week, Shane, I've got Santa Fe at The Rock and Santa Fe at PK Young. I've got Newberry at Santa Fe in a couple of weeks. Oak Hall will be pretty good again this year. That was another team that made it to the Final Four last year. Newberry, by the way, did make it to the Final Four in 1A, but as I mentioned, they have jumped up in classification a couple of classes. So still kind of early here in the volleyball season. So hopefully I can give you a better update after I get out and see a few more teams in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, as you mentioned, Gia McGrew's probably the best player in the area.
Yeah.
Reggie McGrew's daughter.
Yeah.
Reggie, one of the strength coaches for OU. It's interesting. I'll let the listeners in on this. It's kind of the Miles Graham situation. The school that they both attended, Miles came from up in Atlanta. They don't allow the early enrollees, and so that's why Gia moved back to Gainesville so she can play volleyball and be an early enrollee at Iowa. So,
wow.
But she's a heck of a player. All right, so Mike, who you got? Who you calling this week? What games?
All right, so this week I've got the big showdown between East and West Alachua County. Newberry at Hawthorne. Hawthorne beat them twice last year, including once in the playoffs. That's at 7:30 on Friday night. Our pregame coverage, Hank Rowland is my broadcast partner, former Gator punter. 7 o'clock pregame, 7:30 kickoff, 106.9 FM. And then also we'll have an audio broadcast online for Gainesville and Santa Fe. That's also a 7:30 kick, but a 7:15 pregame. And you can listen to that one online at mainstreetdailynews.com. We'll have 2 football broadcasts every week, one on radio, one online at Main Street Daily News.
And people can read your work at Main Street Daily News as well, correct?
Yep, mainstreetdailynews.com. In fact, my latest article was about Rylan Wagner, who a former wrestler for Gainesville High School and a former head coach. He just got inducted into the Florida Chapter Wrestling Hall of Fame. So that's up there along with Newberry's sweep of Eastside the other night.
Good stuff, as always, Mike. Appreciate your time, my friend, and we'll talk to you next week.
All right. Thank you, Shane. Appreciate it. Have a great holiday weekend.
Yep, that's Mike Ridaught. Does a tremendous job covering these young athletes in high school sports. Join us on the Titan MRO hotline. This Day in Sports brought to you by Campus USA Credit Union. Put some star power to work in your financial life. Campus USA Credit. 2022 St. Louis Cardinals slugger Albert Pujols. His career home run, 694, off of Major League record, 450th different pitcher, and a 13-4 win over the Reds in Cincinnati. That's kind of cool that he hit 694 home runs off 450 different pitchers. This Day in Sports brought to you by Campus USA Credit Union. ComfortTech Heating and Air is looking for an enthusiastic, motivated comfort specialist to join our team. $1,000 sign-on bonus after 90 days. Awesome benefits and the opportunity to grow with the winning team. Apply today at ComfortTemp.com. ComfortTemp Heating and Air. Comfort is our business. Peace of mind is our promise. Tomorrow, JC and I will have our Peaceland Dental picks for the weekend. We gave you a few for tonight's games. Should be a lot of fun. I think the North Dakota State-Colorado game will be intriguing. I think the physicality of the Bison will win that game for them. Obviously, Shadur Sanders will make some plays, but I think the Bison win it. And then it'll be fun watching Kerwin and his Catamounts travel to NC State tonight. I think that's a 6 o'clock game on the ACC network. Have a great day, folks. Appreciate you joining the program. We'll see you tomorrow. Take care.